So first of all, I just want to thank you for being here, Bertrand. Me and you go back a long time, man. So this is like
roommates.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. With the Cardinals, man, a lot of stories, but we're gonna keep it real PG on here. No. So, hey, before we get started, man, I just wanted to kind of I want you to give an opportunity or have an opportunity to kind of talk about yourself. I can sit here and brag on you, but I just want everybody to tell where'd you go to college, and then like when you got drafted, and kind of just give us a little background on yourself.
All right. Well, I went to college at the University of Notre Dame. Played in the NFL for 12 years with Indianapolis, drafted in Indianapolis. Also spent time in Denver, and then finished my career here in Arizona. Yeah. And so it's been a long time since I put that uniform on. It's been about 14 years.
Really?
And we're at a point now, Russ, where I've actually been retired longer than I actually played.
I'm probably right there with you now that I think about it. Yeah. Like, you know what? We don't need to do that, man. Yeah. Don't make us feel old.
I'm happy about that, though, because I'm happily retired, man.
Absolutely.
I look at the game now and I see these young guys and how fast they are and all that kind of stuff. And it's amazing to think that we actually played the same game. And once upon a time, we looked like that.
So right? That's a good place to start. So one of the things that I had kind of talked to you about, what do you think about the athletes now? Do you think they're better than we were? Do you think they're the same? Because I look at it sometimes and, my boys playing, your boys playing, and you watch the kids and you're like, damn, are they that much better than us, or has the game passed us by?
No, I don't think they're better than us. I think they've had more access earlier.
Yeah.
I think had we had us as kids, we'd be a lot further along, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, it turned out pretty well for us.
I think so. I think we did pretty good.
But I think for our kids, you always want better for your sons.
Absolutely.
And you and I both are in that situation now. And, man, first of all, congratulations to Deuce, man.
Thank you,
He's
bro.
killing it, bro.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
I feel like it's my son out there.
Absolutely. That's exactly what it is, man. It takes a village, and all you guys came up with him. He doesn't remember y'all, but he's like, well, Dad, who's that? I'm like, man, that's so-and-so. And he's like, how you doing, Mr. So-and-so?
Yeah. I remember being on the field with him after they lost that game to Chandler in the Open Championship.
Yeah.
And I remember going up to him, and I was just like, man, I'm one of your dad's good friends. You played your tail off. You have nothing to hang your head about. I'll never forget that. And I just remember that, seeing that feeling that he had, and then just experiencing it with my son.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Yeah,
it's anytime you come up short, man, it's a tough feeling, and unfortunately, I got a lot of experience with that too.
We both do. I mean, but how hard is that, man? Like, because for me, when I saw him and I saw him give everything in that game, and then to come up short like that, and as a father, as a parent, you feel like, I need to do something. I've got to help him through this. Yeah. And it's nothing you can do except give him a hug and tell him you love him.
It's the worst feeling in the world, Russ, because when we were playing, we actually could do something about it. We could put our helmet on, put our uniform on, and we can go and determine the outcome, so to speak. Now you're just the dad. Now you're just sitting and watching, and that's one of the hardest things I've had to adjust to.
Absolutely.
And so just to kind of finish talking about me, recently, about 4 years ago, I started a business where I train guys.
Yeah, because you saw Deuce. Your first time you saw him was at Saguaro.
At Saguaro.
That was the first time you ran into him.
And I told him, I said, give him to me.
Yeah.
Give him to me. So, being able to train those guys one-on-one and give them some of the things that I've been able to acquire over my career, I think it gives those young men a chance to really elevate their ability to play at the next level and beyond. And I've been able to, and fortunate enough to coach not only high school kids, but younger and older. I've got 3 guys in the league right now that I'm training, and a couple of guys in college. So, I really love what I do. I think it's something that I never saw myself as a coach per se. And I never saw myself as a teacher because my mother was a teacher for 37 years. And so I said, I'll never do what she did. But, man, here I am.
Yeah, exactly. That's what coaching is.
And I'm going to blow your mind with this one. I just got my L1 level of stretch practitioner with Ann.
Yeah. Ann Fredrickson.
Yeah.
She kept me healthy for a long time. Stretch to win.
And so let me just say this, because this is something that came to my attention just fairly recently. I want to say like 2 weeks ago. Ann told me that you were the first one to tell me about her.
Really?
Yeah, you were the first one because we were roommates, right?
Yeah.
And you were telling me about going to get stretched and all this other stuff, and I was a knucklehead. I was one of those guys. I was like, I've gotten there. I've gotten this far by myself. What's the point of doing all of this extra stuff? And when I tell you I finally gave in 2008, 4 years after you first told me about her, it saved my career. It gave me 2 more years on my career. And so I appreciate you, man.
Hey, man,
I appreciate you planting
absolutely.
that seed, because you planted the seed, but it wasn't until 4 years later, when I didn't have an alternative, I had nowhere else to go. I had 3 straight season-ending injuries. I had 2 triceps and I had a pec. And had it not been for Ann and her team keeping me together, I was kind of like Humpty Dumpty. I was like a real live version of Humpty Dumpty. I wouldn't be where I am today, and I wouldn't have had those last 2 years where I was able to experience a Super Bowl appearance and another playoff appearance. So
man, that's great.
I really appreciate you for that.
Absolutely. No problem.
Yeah.
But did she tell you how I first came across her?
No, she didn't.
I was in training camp with the Cardinals, and it was a break or some kind of lull between practices. So I'm walking through the lobby, and this is when we were still up at Flagstaff and a little. Yeah, I know, right? So
I'm walking in the cot.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it felt like out there. Like, man, what are we in prison? And so I'm walking through the lobby, and I see like 3 or 4 guys like laid out on these tables, and I see this little bitty lady, like 5'2", just rolling these big guys around, and I'm looking like, what the hell's going on over there?
Yeah.
So I kind of creeped in, and she saw me in the background. She said, "Hey, come on, get on the table." I'm like, "What's going on?" And she was like, "Oh, well, I stretch people. This is what I do. This is, and she started giving me the whole spiel, and I'm like, kind of like you, like, dude, I've gotten this far on my own. I don't need all this. So, I got on the table, like, sure, I'll try it. And she started rolling me around, and I was like, oh my God, I could feel stuff aligning and popping. And then she did the one where she puts her elbow between your legs, and I was squeezing. I heard like this loud, like, pow. And she goes, "Don't worry, everything's still there." And I'm like, what just happened? And you know how Ann is. Ann is like one of the guys. Some of the jokes she makes is like, whoa, I'm offended by that joke. But she has done a great job with her profession. And you don't understand how important stretching is when you're playing. Like, you hear, all right, let's stretch. Everybody goes through the little, mediocre high knees and let's warm up. But you don't really, after the games, you don't go get stretched. You don't take care of your body. So that's so great to hear how it extended your career.
Yeah, man.
So, and that to me is just one of the great things about taking care of your body. And like we were talking about earlier, we were saying how the kids, are they better? Are they the same? They just have more knowledge. They have more information at their fingertips. So things that I would tell dudes like, hey, we need to go over to LA Fitness after the game. You need to get in the cold tub and you need to take care of your body. So that's awesome. So it added. So when you got those pec injuries, I mean, that's an adversity. Like, how did you deal with that? Like, because I had a bicep tendon tear and I thought it was over.
Yeah, I had back-to-back years. So this is how crazy it was. I tore my pec in 2005. Okay. And it was the first time I'd really experienced real trauma to my body. Yeah. I'd had a grade 2 separation over here that I missed a couple of games, but nothing that was going to keep me off the field for an extended period of time, right? Yeah. So I go and I get the pec done, and I go get it by Dr. Andrews. Yeah,
real good doctor. He did mine.
And so I thought, okay, this is no problem. I missed the second half of that year. Things weren't going great anyway. So it was like, I remember Coach Green kind of telling me, hey, man, just take it easy, come back stronger than ever next year. He was like, we'd love to have you, but, it's in your best interest considering the team where we weren't standings and all that kind of stuff. Go ahead and get yourself ready for the next year. And so we come back to next year, and the exact same weekend, 3 straight years, my daughter's birthday weekend, the second week in November, I had 3 tendons pop off in consecutive years. And so after the third one, I'm thinking to myself, Russ, what is going on? Yeah, like, why is my body breaking down on me like this? And of course, the first thing that comes to your mind is my career's over. Yeah. Because at this point, the best ability is availability. Yeah, and absolutely. When you're not available, they're not going to keep you around. And you can be as good as you want, but if you're not on the field producing, they're going to find somebody that can produce.
Yes, they will.
So I did have to, what do they call it? Restructure my contract, which is called is a pay cut for all those
I was
out
going to
there.
Say, just keep it real. It's a pay cut.
It's a pay cut. You get fired temporarily. So got fired temporarily, took that pay cut and came back. And that's when I said, okay, now I got to do everything that I can to make sure that I'm okay physically, because mentally I was still okay, but I was teetering.
Yeah, it takes a toll.
It takes a toll, man. Yeah. And I felt like if this is my career, I want to at least go out walking off the field.
Yes.
I don't want to go out like I went out the last 3 years, having to be helped off the field or feeling less than my whole self.
Right.
So I said, I'm going to put everything I got into this year, and then I'm just going to see what happens year to year.
Right.
So same thing during camp in flag. They tell me about and again, and I'm like, all right. I had 3 straight years. Let
me try.
At this point,
it can't hurt.
It can't hurt. You know what I mean? And the first time I got on that table, my mentality was so poor, bro. Like, I've told her, I said, I went on that table like a defensive player.
What do you mean?
I went on the table and I said, you're not going to move me. I literally, like, mentally, I had a mouthpiece in, I had a helmet on, I had shoulder pads on. Because at that point, I'm still not buying what she's selling.
Okay,
I'm like,
so you're being stubborn.
I'm extremely stubborn.
Yeah,
extremely headstrong. Same qualities that made me a great player.
Yeah, absolutely.
Makes you a bad,
a bad patient.
Yes. So I went in, and I mean, after 30 minutes of finally just not giving in, I finally gave in, and I got to tell you, I went straight to sleep.
Yeah.
I went straight to sleep. And I said, if anybody can make me feel that relaxed, it's got to be good.
Yeah.
And I felt like a champ the rest of that camp. And so from then on, I was like, I'm yours. So like when I get on the table now, bro, I'm completely surrendered. Like, I got
absolutely.
Hands back. Like
you come in, out. Kick your shoes off like you're at home, about to go to bed or something. You lay down.
With the Aussie bites, though. The Aussie bites. You know what I mean? So it was a complete transformation for me. And I think having her in that team with Kelly and Brian and all those guys, Jimmy, they were instrumental in keeping me physically together.
Yes.
But that kept me mentally together.
Yes.
Because then I was still able to go back out there and feel like myself again on the field. So a long-winded answer to your question is I was able to kind of stay mentally involved because I was able to really lock in on what I had to do every single day.
Right.
Each day I had to commit to something. Like it's either going to be stretch or it's going to be weight training.
Yeah.
It's going to be nutrition or it's going to be, just making sure that I'm doing all the things that I'm supposed to do or be a dad.
Yeah.
Because that's part of it too.
Yes, absolutely.
You sacrifice a lot of that family time, but you got to give them something.
Yeah,
you can't just be absentee the entire season.
You have to be there for them.
It was quite a journey for me at the end of my career, Russ. But I think having that single-minded focus of taking each day for what it is and not looking too far ahead. I think that was really key in me staying engaged and finishing strong in my career.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like when I tore my bicep tendon, that's the first thing you think. If you've never had a major injury in your entire career, I mean, you've had nicks and bruises and a game or two missed here, but when somebody tells you you're going to miss an entire season.
Yeah.
So not only am I worried about my own physical health, but now mentally you got to stay focused, like you said.
Correct.
And then you start things running through your mind like, well, are they going to draft somebody to take my place? Am I going to come back 100%?
Yeah.
So it just goes into kind of what I've talked about, and it goes into that mental wellness.
Yep.
I mean, because you're in your mind, you're your own biggest enemy because you're like, well, I heard, and it's the second year in a row, and what if they do this to me? And you start getting into panic modes, and so you have to find something to keep you mentally focused. So I go back and forth. I had Spencer on here, and we were talking about mental health, and I was one of those guys in the beginning that I was kind of like you, dude, you're a football player. You got to get through it. You got to tough it out. You got to do all these things. But then when you have your own kid and he's playing the sport, you recognize certain things like, man, he's going through something right now.
Correct.
And you start seeing it. So you want them to do better. And you're like, hey, man, you want to talk about something? Do you need something? Do you need someone you can talk to? Because one of the greatest things Deuce could have told me, and we were at home and he was just like, yeah, Dad, I go talk to a therapist. And I was like, oh my God, like that's so good. Like it wasn't that negative stereotype, like what's wrong with you? You're crazy. You can't handle yourself. It was like, I'm so glad that you know that you need help and you can go do that, because that was something that we didn't know. I mean, we knew it, but it was like, you're a football player. You got to be tougher than that.
Russ, that could have been that's to be that locked in at that age, to be 19, 20?
Yeah, he'll be 20 in December.
Crazy. So my son will be 18. Crazy. But to think that they have such an advantage, and there's more awareness now, and there's more opportunities.
Yes.
Because to be honest, when we played, not to say that we played, 1,000
I know, right?
ago,
it sounds like we played with leather helmets.
but when we, in the 90s, football was still that same sport. It was still that, jacked up and people
big
get
hits.
knocked out, like who's the toughest? The toughest team is going to win. There wasn't a lot of sympathy for any type of perceived weakness off the field or even on the field.
Right.
If
Absolutely.
you feel like you're going through something, you just got to toughen it up.
Yes.
And deal with that when you got time on your own. But while you're on company time, no, you need to get this thing done.
I don't care about that. So, and I love that because I think it's the Bears that I saw this. They have a lady on the sideline. They have a therapist at practice on the sidelines to talk to these guys. And of course, like you just said, we grew up in an era where it was like, strap it up, you got your bell rung, get back in there. I don't care about your problems at home. So when I first saw that, of course, my first thing was like, these boys are soft. You start bad mouthing them, and then until you take a second and sit back and you start reflecting on like, man, I remember I had some bad games in it. Maybe if I had somebody to talk to, I would have dealt with that situation better. Absolutely. Maybe I wouldn't have gone home and at everybody around me.
Dealt with it real time.
So by the time you get home, it's not an issue.
That's correct.
And it's funny that we're even talking about this because me and my wife, we talk about it all the time. She's just like, it's unfortunate that you feel that way because I want home to be a safe space. I want you to feel like you can tell me these things. I want you and Deuce to tell me these things. And as a man, you're like, oh, well, I'm not going to do that. And I'm tough and I can handle this. And it can wear on you and it can wear you down. Like,
absolutely.
Have you ever, I guess I'm going to ask this question because when I talked with Deuce when we did an episode, he was telling me things and I was like, wow, I didn't know that. And a lot of it had to deal with stress. It had to do with anxiety, fear. Like he didn't know how to cope with it. And he was just like, okay, I want to play in this game, but I don't want to start because I don't want to mess up, but you can start somebody else. So have you seen that in your own son?
So with Bertrand, or Boost as I call him, the family is allowed to call him Boost, so I can call him Boost.
Okay. Now you put it out there. You put it out there. It's too late.
It's a great nickname. I mean, short for Caboose. My nickname is B-Train, so he's at the end, but that's the story for another day. I've seen him go through all the gamut of emotions on the football field. I've seen him pure joy. Yeah. I've seen him pure dejected. Yeah. Last or 2 nights ago, I saw him, I'm going to say melancholy.
Really?
Yeah, he was melancholy because he saw the end was near, and I pulled him aside at halftime, and I said, listen, man, you got 24 minutes of the rest of your high school career. Wow. You should have your tongue hanging out of your mouth by the time you finish with this game. And he understood that. He heard that. But at the same time, I watched him throughout the course of the game, and as it started to slip away, you could just see this. It's not going to happen. Yeah. Like he wasn't upset. He wasn't throwing things. He wasn't belligerent. He wasn't, irate. He wasn't throwing things. He had accepted the fact that it was over, and he was doing the best he could to just console his teammates. Yeah, man. And Russ, I got to say, I was as proud of him in that moment as I've ever been with him doing anything on the field as far as plays or anything like that, because there was a level of maturity that I don't even know I had.
Oh, I would have never had that at that age.
Even at the end of my career, even as a 34-year-old grown man, I don't think I had that level of maturity at any point in my career that he already has at 17, half my age. Yeah. And so for him to show that in that moment and to be that collected. Yes. As a father, I don't think I could have been any prouder of him than what I was. Yeah. Of course you want the score to look a little different.
Absolutely.
But for him to be okay with it and to know that he was going to be all right mentally. Yes. I think that was as calming a moment as I could have had under those circumstances. Because I know I'm still kind of feeling a certain way after the game.
Because you start going back everything that happened, and you start replaying it in your head.
You play the game 3 times, 3 or 4 times. We've all done it. We're perfectionists. That's what we do.
Right.
But I think for him, he may do that, but he was still self-aware in the moment to say, this isn't going to happen for us. But more importantly, I see my teammates hurting. Let me go be there for them.
Yes, let me be there for them.
And it just
brings tears to your eyes, man.
It brings tears to
like
now. Like,
I know. I'm just listening to you, so it's making me think about when Deuce came after that loss, and it was like, all you can do is hug him.
That's all you can do, bro.
And I
tell him you love him.
You tell him you love him,
That's
and did you play your hardest? And he's like, yeah. And I could just hear the pain in his voice, and it was like, I can't do anything, and it's so helpless, man. That is,
that leads me to another issue, Russ, is most athletes, if we're really honest, we experience a level of success, but very few athletes get to go out the way that they really want to go out.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
How do you make that transition as far as an individual knowing that you've worked all your life into making this as big and as successful as it can possibly be?
Right.
Then you reach that ultimate level. You actually reach the mountaintop like yourself. You win a Super Bowl, and then it's like, okay, now what?
It's like the greatest high, and where do you go from there?
Where do you go from there?
Yeah. So, and it's like, so when you go from football, it's your last game, because like you said, like I would have loved to have gone out the way I wanted to. I won the Super Bowl. It was great, and then I got injured. And I remember I got hurt and working out, and I rolled my ankle pretty good, and I was like, man, I'm getting old. Like my body wasn't recovering the way I thought it should.
Right.
And so it makes you start wondering, like, is this, gosh, this is 12, 13 years.
That's it.
It's a long time. And you start looking at all these things, and you're not bouncing back as quick.
Do you want to put in the work?
Do you want to put in the work that it takes to come back? And I remember getting a call from the Patriots, and they were talking about bringing me in for a year. And I just remember like, oh, wow, the Patriots. Oh, my God. But there was that part of me that was like, Russell, physically, can you do it?
Do you want to do it?
And do you want to do it? And those are real questions that you have to deal with. You're like, physically, I don't know if I can. And to be honest, I don't even know if I want to anymore.
Russ, I have on my phone right now, I'm not going to prove it, but I have as my screensaver a picture of myself at 17.
You gotta show me that afterwards.
I'll show
17-year-old B-Trey.
17-year-old me, brother. And the reason I have that on my phone is that I always wanted to be true to that guy. Because if you go back to that 17-year-old Russell Davis, senior in high school, that dude thought he could conquer anything.
God, you couldn't have told me I wouldn't be on the moon by now.
Right? And so I always tried to live in a way that guy would be impressed. The 17-year-old me would be impressed. Because he felt like he could do anything, long as he stayed healthy and long as he did what he was supposed to do.
Injuries don't happen though.
Injuries don't happen.
That doesn't happen. Yeah.
And so you can do whatever it is that you want. You can play as long as you want.
Yeah.
You can make as much money as you want. There is nothing
There's no
out of
end
the
in
realm
sight.
of possibility for you. And so I always try to handle myself, even today, making sure that 17-year-old me would be proud.
Wow, now you put me on the spot, man.
No.
But because I'm gonna think about
just for me.
Because I that's just huge. Because when you think about that, I'm like, what 17-year-old Russell would be proud of 48-year-old Russell?
What would he think of?
And I gotta think, yes, because I have a 19-year-old son and I have a 21-year-old daughter, and I see all the great things that I wanted to do or that I wanted for me. I see it through them. So I'm like, I think, now that I'm thinking about it, I think 17-year-old Russell might be a little proud of the old man right now.
You know what I mean?
Like, because as you talk, like I'm listening to you and you talk about your son and you talk about your kids and you're like, and they did this and they did that. And I'm like, I'm swelling up with pride because I'm like, that's, as a parent, that's what you want for your kid.
What can I do you?
Yeah, what can I do for you? How can I make your life so much easier than mine? And I'm not trying to tell you how to live your life. I'm not trying to run your life, but I've been down this road. Let me help you, please. You don't have to go at it alone. So man, that's awesome. Like that's a great thing to think about, to look back and say, would a 17, 18-year-old Russell be proud of me right now?
Absolutely, brother. It's food for thought. And I've come to the conclusion that my son is the only man that I'll ever be happy that he outdid me.
When he's better than you. Is that the greatest quote ever?
It's the best quote ever, man.
I am the only man that will be happy for you when you're better than me.
That's correct.
That is, yes.
And I'm going to give you every opportunity. I'm going to give you every advantage that I can possibly give you. And if you do it, all I'm gonna do is smile and be that
all I'm gonna do
dad.
is be the proud. Like you smile like I do. Just sit back thinking about it. You're like, dude, all I want you to do is to be successful, man. Correct. When you have success, I'm like, dude, you came from me.
I mean, not to mention both our sons are the second. So
So there's a lot of pressure on them. So do you think that adds pressure to them? Because like I said, I had Deuce in here talking to him, and he told me, he goes, Dad, I never felt any pressure to be Russell. I always could be me. He goes, I love football for me. He goes, I started playing because you wanted me to, but big. I got my love, and he said, I just took it from there. Yeah. So when you see, can't call him Caboose. Sorry.
Just Boost. Yeah, Boost.
Boost. Sorry.
Yeah.
So, like, what do you see that in your boy too?
Absolutely. And I see it because, one, he never tried to be me. Yeah. When he first got to Highland, he was a receiver, right? So he tried to go the complete opposite route because back then Odell Beckham was that guy.
Yes.
And everybody saw the catch, and everybody wanted to do that. And he was big and he was fast. And so he thought he could ultimately be him. In his first year on varsity, he was a receiver. Wow. So then his junior year, I said, nah, bro, you look like me and you built like me. So that's
a good thing, though. That's a good thing.
We're going to get that hand in the ground, and we're gonna go get after quarterbacks. Instead of catching passes from them, we're going to go tackle.
Yes.
And so it's worked out, and I think for him, he never wore my numbers. He never tried to emulate me. He always tried to carve out his own niche, and I think for him, it's really worked. Yeah. And now, he has his own identity at his school. He and his senior class have done tremendous things. I'm extremely proud of them. Yeah. And he did it his way. Like, he took little snippets from me.
Absolutely.
He listened. There's times that I didn't think he was listening. He was listening.
Oh, my God. Don't even get started on that. But most times I think they're not listening.
No, they're absolutely listening, especially with us as dads. And they understand that it's a tremendous responsibility. Yeah, to have that name because we gave them good standing names.
Yes.
Or I should say names with good standing.
Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah.
And so they had to find their own way to make sure their name stood by themselves. Yeah. And so far, so good with both our sons.
Yeah, man. I just along those same lines, it was like when Deuce first got to high school and he wore my number, there was like so much pride. Like, oh my God, he's wearing my number. But then there was always that you don't have to be me.
Right.
Like, I respect it. I love the fact that you're wearing that number, and it makes me feel so good. Yeah. I feel like as a father, as a parent, you're saying to me by wearing that, like, dude, I love you. Yep. You and mom have done such a great job, and this is my way of honoring. Yeah, I appreciate you. Yeah. But I think one of my most proud moments with him was his senior year when he switched his jersey. Mm-hmm. When he went to number 6, that was like, okay, I've tried to do dad, I've tried to do mom, I've tried to do me. Let me do me. Yeah. And I think that was when he really had the most fun. Yes. He stepped out. I felt like he wasn't in that shadow of Russell Davis II anymore. He's now Deuce Davis. Like,
that's him. That's his identity.
That's his identity. That's right. And I'm Deuce's dad.
That's right.
Like, it wasn't, Russell, your dad played football. It's now like, hey, you're Deuce's dad, right?
That's right.
And like we said earlier, I'm the only man that's going to be happy for you when you outdo me.
That's right.
And so for him, it was just like when he got that number 6, and I was like, dude, whatever. D linemen don't wear number 6. And I started to really, that 6 grew on me because, he's a slim body. So, he didn't have all that girth like I did. So it looked
like we got, what I mean? We tried to act like we ain't got it, but, we got it in droves, you know what I mean?
we got it a little bit too much, but it was like you said, it's like when you see your kid being their own man. Yeah. There's nothing more satisfying, I feel like, as a father or as a parent to see your kid grow up and to be like, no, Dad, I got it. Yeah. And I mean, it hurts to let go, but when you see them flying and you see them sailing, you're like, yeah, man. I did
that's
that.
me right
That's
there.
me.
Yeah.
That's my boy. That's my
You know, that's that's mine.
Yeah, that's mine. I did that. Yeah, that's all me. I mean, yeah, he's got a mom. Yeah, she's back there somewhere, but that's me right there.
Put a little something on it.
So where is he? Like, how's school for him right now? Like, what's going on with that?
So I told him, and I wanted him to really lock in because, unfortunately, at the beginning of the season, he wound up breaking his collarbone.
Ooh.
And he missed 5 weeks of the season this year. But he was able to come back, I think, game 7, something like that.
Yeah.
And really just finish strong, and they were able to go on and get into the Open. And like I said, they were in the semifinals this past Saturday. I think for him, based on what he did last year, because last year he had a really good year.
Okay.
He was able to really catch a lot of people, I don't want to say by surprise, but to change positions and to do something completely different than what he had trained to do the first 2 years.
Right.
I think the fact that it came so natural to him, and he finally admitted to me that at the end of the season, like, yeah, this feels natural. I was like,
yeah, baby, put your hand on in the dirt, get that hand dirty.
Just saying, like that explosion, they pay good for that too. You know
they pay a lot of money for that.
Like, between catching the balls and going to get quarterbacks, the pay scale is a little different. But that's a story for another day. But I felt like he really came into his own last year.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of momentum building. And then, unfortunately, after the second week, having that injury in practice, it kind of set him back. But the thing that I saw with him, Russ, was that he was able to stay engaged and really still be that leader. Even though he wasn't on the field with his guys, he was still present. He was at every practice. He was at every meeting. He didn't miss. He was on game day. He was coaching them up as the games were going on. Like, the coach would give him the game plan. Then when they broke the huddle, he would give the defensive lineman a little bit of intel here and there. And so I was just proud of the way that he stayed engaged. And then he hit the ground running, came back. I think he had a 2-piece, no fries.
Oh yeah, that's
right
good.
out of the gate.
You got to translate that for those people who don't understand.
For 2-piece, no fries, that's 2 sacks. When you, for defensive linemen, sacks. You spell it $ACKS.
Yes,
you know what I mean.
Yes,
but he was able to come in and make an immediate impact and really help his team kind of get over that hump. There was something kind of missing. Like, it was a good team, but they were really able to kind of take it to that next level once he was able to get back. And I was really proud of him for, one, staying with it and not getting down and all that kind of good stuff. And so they had a great run. His 4 years, they were able to accomplish some things. And, hey, I think he has a real shot at playing at the next level.
Okay.
I'm not sure where that is. I don't care where that is as long as it's not in my house, because we won't be at our house. And once he graduates, we're gonna change a whole lot. There's gonna be a whole lot of life changes after he graduates. But I think he's gonna go somewhere and really be a great asset to whatever program chooses to bring him in.
It's amazing that as I'm listening to you, and you probably don't even think about this, because I hear it all the time, and people are like, you're in the frame. Like, when you step back and look at the picture, you would be amazed. And as I'm listening to you and you're talking about him, and you're like, well, he was locked in, and even though he was hurt, and I'm looking at you, I'm like, bro, you realize he got that from his father. Like, I mean, think about that, man, because what you were talking about earlier and how you dealt with adversity and how you were better for it, you were able to then pass that along to your son. And when he got hurt, he had somebody at home who he could come to. Once again, that mental stability that we're talking about, I can go home and talk to my father, who's been through this multiple times, and he came out on the other side better for it.
It's great for him.
It is, and I'm listening to you, and I'm just, all I can hear in my mind is, good job, B-Train. Oh, good job, B-Train. Great job, Dad.
Just gotta love your sons, man. We love our children, and we try not to differentiate between daughters and sons. There is a difference. There's a difference in how you relate to your daughter and how you relate to your son. Yeah. There's no question. I have 2 daughters, and I relate to them completely differently.
Very different.
Than I do.
I have way more patience for my daughter.
Way more. And you do way more for them.
Yes.
But with him also, he understands that he has to take that next step. Mm-hmm. And part of that is kind of learning to do things on his own, kind of figuring it out. Yeah. And there's times where I want to give him advice. He's like, Let me figure it out. Dad.
Yeah, yeah.
I got it.
And you're
like
sitting there waiting.
I got this.
You're waiting like,
I got you.
I can help.
Yeah. I got something for that,
I can make that so much easier.
Let me go to the vault and check it out, So man. It's good to see him, one, wanting to do it.
Yes, yes.
And then two, actually having the ability to actually think himself through and out of situations.
Yeah.
Or into situations, depending on
sometimes they overthink it.
Yeah, for real.
But look, man, I've had a great time. But before we go, I wanted to ask you a question because I always kind of ask people because we had kind of touched on it a little bit when you said you got your picture of 17-year-old B-Train.
Yeah,
so, no, okay. Now, if you could go back to that guy, wow. You got to send me that picture. I got to put that out there. I don't know where I'm going to put it. But if you could give some advice to these young kids and these parents who are going through it right now, they're looking at recruitment, they're looking at what high schools to go to, they're just looking at how do I give my kid the best opportunity? Like, what advice would you give them?
The first thing I would say is find a situation that is best for you as a 17, 18-year-old young man. The second thing I would tell them is go where you're needed and not tolerated. Because a lot of times young guys, they want to go to the shiny program.
Yeah, they want to go to the Alabamas
or even the Oregons,
or
the
Oregons,
the Georgias, or the the Michigans. My son's favorite team is Michigan. as a Domer, you know that.
I was like, that doesn't sit well with you.
That doesn't sit well at all, and he constantly throws this nonsense in my face. And I'm like, okay, how many championships in the last 20 years? But we'll wait. But you want to go where you're appreciated and not tolerated, and then where you can go and make an impact now. Don't wait.
Yeah.
With all of the different things that are going against high school kids now with transfer portal, COVID year, you got 6 years, you got 22, 23
25-year-olds, 7 years coming back for their 7th year. We're almost
some of their counterparts that are the same age are like 4 or 5 year veterans in the league already. You still in college. I digress. Find somewhere where you can go play. You don't want to sit and waste years. You want to go somewhere where, one, academically you can really take in what they're giving you and not feel overwhelmed. Sometimes you go to these bigger schools and they don't have a lot of patience for young guys because they're telling you, okay, here's the curriculum,
here's your syllabus,
I'll see you in December.
Pretty much.
Figure it out.
Figure it out.
We got tests this week, and this week. Everything else is on you. And for a lot of young people, not just men, but the young ladies as well, they're used to a different way of learning. They're used to the day in and day out reinforcement of, okay, we're going over the curriculum again and again and again and again. Now you got to read it for yourself. They give you the book at the beginning of the year. It's like, okay, I expect you to know it. I'm gonna test you on it at different stages,
whether you're ready or not.
So just find your place. Everybody has a place.
Right.
Find yours. Try not to go in with the thought of, I'm only going to be here for a set amount of time. I understand the transfer portal. It's helped a lot of people, but it has
hurt a lot of people. There's a lot of kids still sitting in that portal, man.
I mean, wasting away. And, find a place where you can really consider it home. Find a group of guys that you can relate to and make the most of it. Try not to school hop. I mean, I get it. I'm not downing it by any stretch of the imagination, but I love the fact that I went to one college. All of my memories are based on one school. And most of the guys, I had either 4, 3, 2, or 1 year with, and they're great memories.
A
lot of those guys, I have a thread of like 27 of my former teammates that I talk to every week. Every time it's game week, we talk, we get on the horn and we start texting each other and it's blowing up. And, my son's like, man, your phone is going.
That's only on Saturday, son.
But I was like, it's only one day, man.
It's only 1 day a week.
So, you'd be all right. If you want to do something else, go do something else. It's another TV upstairs. But really just find your place and work hard at it. Don't think about the if it doesn't work out. Don't let that be your mentality. Like, don't go in with that mentality.
Yeah. Like,
because
if
if you already
out,
do that, you're never going to stay there. As soon as the slightest adversity arises, you out.
Yeah.
What does that say about the rest of your life? Because the real world doesn't work like that. You don't get to just up and go and change jobs.
I don't like it here anymore.
I don't like it anymore. I want to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay. it gets real fast.
Yes. Faster than you like to admit it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, hey, man, look, I appreciate you coming on here and being a part of this, man. It's been good seeing you, brother. Thanks for tuning in to The Route. Don't forget to subscribe and connect with us on socials for exclusive updates. We'll see you next week.